Best friend that I treated like a brother betrayed me. I've always believed that the people you let closest to you can either lift you to the highest point in your life or drive the deepest knife into your back. Strangers can hurt you, yes, but only the people you love most can truly betray you. For most of my life, that person was Daniel. Daniel and I met when we were just kids in middle school. He had just moved into my neighborhood, and because he was awkward and shy, the other kids didn't exactly rush to be his friend. I wasn't exactly popular myself, but I knew what it was like to feel left out. So I sat with him during lunch one day, shared my fries, and we became inseparable after that. Over the years, Daniel became more than just a friend. He was like the brother I never had. He spent weekends at my house, joined my family for vacations, even came to my grandmother's funeral, and cried harder than some of my relatives. If you asked anyone who knew us, they'd say we were a package deal. When we grew older, life started getting complicated. I got a stable job and began working my way up. Daniel, meanwhile, bounced from one job to another, never sticking around long enough to make something of himself. But I never judged him for it. I helped him whenever I could, loaned him money, let him crash on my couch when his rent was due, and even used my connections to get him into the company I was working at. I thought that was what brothers did. But Daniel didn't see me as a brother. He saw me as an opportunity. I met Claire at a mutual friend's birthday party. She had this vibrant energy about her that drew everyone in, and I was no exception. We clicked immediately, and within months, we were dating. When I introduced her to Daniel, he seemed genuinely happy for me. "You deserve this, man," he said, patting me on the back. "She's amazing." I didn't know it at the time, but those words were laced with envy. Claire and I grew closer over the years. We moved in together, started planning for the future. Daniel remained a constant presence in our lives, always hanging out, always tagging along for dinners and game nights. He was part of my world, and Claire accepted him too. But I started noticing subtle things, the way Daniel looked at Claire when he thought no one was watching, the way he'd laugh too hard at her jokes, or how his hand would linger just a bit too long when he touched her arm. I brushed it off. I trusted him. He was my brother. The truth came crashing down one evening when I got home from work earlier than expected. Claire was supposed to be working late. Daniel, I assumed, was at his apartment. But when I walked into my living room, I froze. There they were, Claire and Daniel, locked in a kiss on my couch. My couch. The same couch where Daniel had once cried over a breakup. The same couch where Claire and I had cuddled watching movies. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My body felt numb, as if I had been hit by a truck. They didn't even notice me at first. When they finally did, Claire jumped up, guilt etched across her face, while Daniel had the audacity to smirk. "Man, I can explain," he said casually, like I had just caught him borrowing a shirt without asking. Explain? How do you explain stabbing your best friend in the heart? I didn't shout. I didn't throw punches. I simply turned around, walked into the bedroom, and packed Claire's things into a suitcase. I told her to leave. She tried to cry, to beg, but I didn't care. As for Daniel, I told him he was dead to me. But inside, I was burning. It wasn't enough to just cut them off. Not after everything I had done for Daniel. Not after all the times I had lifted him up when he was at his lowest. Not after I had trusted him with the most important part of my life. No. He needed to understand what betrayal truly felt like. I knew Daniel better than anyone. I knew his weaknesses, his desires, his desperate need to prove himself. He had always envied me, my job, my stability, my relationships. That envy had festered for years, and now it had turned into betrayal. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't just taking something from him. It was letting him climb high enough to think he had finally won, then cutting the rope. So I waited. Daniel thought I had moved on. He reached out a few months later, apologizing in that fake, half-hearted way of his. "We were drunk," he claimed. "It didn't mean anything." He tried to downplay it, to act like it wasn't betrayal, but just a mistake. I ignored him, but I watched him. Daniel had managed to charm his way into a new circle of friends, wealthy guys who owned small businesses, who liked to throw money around at clubs. Daniel was desperate to fit in with them, but he didn't have the money to keep up. That's when he came to me again, pretending to reconcile. "Look, man," he said one night at a bar, "I messed up with you. I know that, but I'm trying to turn things around. I've got this business idea, and I could really use your advice. Maybe even your support. I sipped my drink, hiding the smirk that wanted to form. Tell me about it. And just like that, the plan started falling into place. Daniel's business idea was laughable. He wanted to start a trendy cafe, something that looked Instagram worthy and catered to influencers. He had no experience, no plan, and no clue. But he had me. I played my role perfectly. I pretended to forgive him, to give him a second chance. I told him I believed in him. I even introduced him to a few people in my network, people who could make his dream look real. I didn't give him money, though. No, that would be too easy. Instead, I gave him connections, advice, and just enough encouragement to make him think he was onto something big. Over the next year, Daniel worked tirelessly on his cafe. He borrowed money from his new friends, maxed out his credit cards, and even convinced Claire, yes, Claire, to invest what little savings she had. I stayed close, always offering a helping hand, always making him feel like I was in his corner. When the cafe finally opened, Daniel was beaming. "This is it, man," he told me, pride swelling in his voice. "I finally made something of myself." I clapped him on the back, smiled, and said, "I'm proud of you." But inside, I was sharpening the knife. You see, Daniel's cafe wasn't just badly planned, it was doomed. The location was terrible, the rent was sky high, and the target audience he was banking on wasn't even in the area. But I didn't sabotage it directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I let him sabotage himself. I gently nudged him toward bad decisions, suggested overpriced suppliers I knew would bleed him dry, encouraged him to spend on flashy decor rather than reliable staff, advised him to expand too quickly, even when the numbers didn't make sense. He trusted me. After all, I was his brother. And as the months went by, his dream cafe started to crumble. Customers trickled away, bills piled up, his investors grew impatient. Claire left him eventually. Turns out betrayal doesn't build lasting relationships. She realized Daniel wasn't the man she thought he was. And Daniel? He was drowning. When Daniel was at his breaking point, when his debts had swallowed him whole, he came to me again. "I don't know what to do, man," he said, his voice cracking. "I'm losing everything. I need help." I looked at him, this hollow shell of the man who had once smirked at me while kissing the woman I loved, and I felt nothing but satisfaction. "I warned you about rushing things," I said calmly, "but you didn't listen." He broke down, begging me to bail him out, to lend him money, to save him. But I didn't. Instead, I reminded him of the day I found him on my couch with Claire, the day he smirked in my face. "Brothers don't do that," I said coldly. "And you stopped being my brother a long time ago." I walked away, leaving him to face the ruins of his own making. The cafe shut down within the year. Daniel disappeared from our circle, too ashamed to show his face. Last I heard, he was working odd jobs, trying to pay off his debts. As for me, I moved on. I built a better life, found someone new, someone loyal. Do I regret what I did? No. Because sometimes, the only way to teach a traitor the value of loyalty is to let them choke on their own betrayal. And Daniel, he'll never forget that lesson. Like and subscribe. Share if this happened to you or someone you know.